This is the Kings Road Slayer, Derek Neal, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at stevebowtiebryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Hey, this is Jimmy from the Live and in Color with Wolfie D and Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. Would you like to also make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And that's how you're hearing this right now. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, it's made the job of producing multiple podcasts so much easier. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I'm here as always with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. How you?
Just hanging and banging, brother. Just doing this podcasting thing, dude. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I was doing Macho Man or Hogan.
I don't know. Well, maybe you're doing Macho Hogan.
Macho Warrior Rick Hogan. You know, that was a guy. You heard of him?
Yeah.
Before?
Yeah, I'd heard of Memphis, right?
Yeah, wow. He's not doing too good. Let's just say that, but not in his health. But he made some very bad decisions. But anyway, I don't want to start Derek Neal's episode with that.
Okay.
Going on, we've got an awesome guest today. We've got the one and only, the real deal, Derek Neal, the one and only Kings Road Slayer. I mean, he's got all kinds of names, but Derek's a real deal dude, man. He's actually, I would say, one of the more busier guys that we've ever interviewed, actually, on this show. So
yeah, man, he looks like he's getting it done out there.
Oh, dude, he's so busy all the time. He's got a full-time job and he's got kids, and he's also a full-time wrestler, man. He's wearing it out. But first of all, you know, I know Derek, but we've known each other from the past. Second of all, Ben Jordan said, hey, you ought to get Derek Neal on. Then when I said, hey, we're bringing Derek Neal on, all these other guys were like, heck yeah, that's awesome. So in turn, that means we're going to have a good show today, I think. I think the predictors are out of a good episode. So
yeah, I think so too, man. It's I feel like all of them have been going great, and you know, I just feel like let's add another one to the list.
Yeah, and the other thing is, as we look at this paperwork and stuff, much like Scott Spade, there's some different names on there sometimes we get in the game of like too many guys are too close to one another, and they got a lot of the same names on the lists and stuff like that. So this will be nice to step away from that a little bit and get some new fresh blood in and talk, man. And by the way, we've got, I want to announce it now, but we've got some incredible shows coming up. So y'all just stay buckled in. Definitely got some cool names coming up that are out of the ordinary too, I think. And yeah, one name, if we land the one name, I'm going to be so stoked. But other than that, I don't want to let on too much yet, just because we haven't dotted the I's and crossed the T's, brother, So anyway, yeah. How you doing, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I might have a little surprise coming up for you and Little Sheik coming up, so we'll maybe discuss that in the future. But
oh yeah, I keep going to the Macho Hogan. Yeah, I don't know. I can't stop.
You're channeling your inner Mach today.
Yeah, I woke up today and I think I'm just Macho Man. Yeah, anyway. But long story short, I like surprises, and, you always have a good surprise. So definitely appreciate anything you surprise me with, even if it's just a jump scare.
Yeah.
Keep my heart going.
so go in the next room where Michelle is or something, and be like, if you go in there and you're like, Elizabeth, then you know you really like Much today.
Yeah. If I call Michelle Elizabeth, yeah. So obviously, to kind of talk a little bit more about what's been going on, the first episode of Stories from Across the Street dropped, and when that was with Still Real to Me, Damn It, Dave Wills. Yeah, that was a fun episode with him, man.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed listening to it, because I think the thing we lose sometime in this viral world of little clips going viral is what's everything behind it? Why did this clip go so viral? What was he thinking? What was he feeling that day? What was said prior to it? I mean, because a lot of people don't really know much about what was said prior to it. They just know the clip that, Tosh.0 and YouTube and all these places have made famous, but they don't really know the man or the story behind it.
Exactly. And that was my whole point of it. Now, not every episode is going to be a viral star, but I wanted, past the 30 seconds of It's Still Real to Me, Damn It, Thank You, Mr. Funk, for saying what needed to be said, that kind of thing. We didn't really know Dave. Now, I know a lot of our listeners, our friends, Gene Jackson, Doug Markham, they know him well. Other guys have met him, like at the Gulf Coast reunion, Shane Morton, Ben Jordan, those guys. But when it comes down to it, we didn't know Dave, and I didn't know Dave, other than past, he listens to the podcast and stuff, and we appreciate that, Dave. But I wanted to know the full details, and then I wanted to hear more about the Tosh, because really, a lot of the Tosh was kind of like almost tongue in cheek, they were playing along with each other there. And I wanted the true story, really what made him so emotional. And, him talking about and if y'all haven't listened, just go listen. Him talking about the death of Eddie Guerrero. And then that caused Terry Funk to say, what he said. And that's what caused Dave to be emotional. And him being emotional led to him being on Tosh. It was a great story, and Dave's just awesome, man. I'm lucky now to call him a friend, and definitely he's a fun guy, and he's already trying to help us book guests, man. So I'm excited about knowing Dave now better. So
and dude, the fact that the Barbarian is his favorite wrestler is so cool to me. I mean,
doesn't that tell you everything you need to know?
like it's so easy for somebody to say Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Sting, Dusty Rhodes,
Macho Man.
Yeah. I mean, whoever is their favorite wrestler, but for the fact that Barbarian is his favorite wrestler is just so awesome to me.
I know. I think it's so cool because it's original too, man. I mean,
yeah.
The funny thing is his email and everything is conga, so it's like he's definitely throwing his hat as far as to, his enjoyment. And Dave, if you listen to the episode, I feel like you probably did, at the very end, "We'll see you later," that's Barbarian saying that. So, I was going to change it up because I did get my buddy Tracy Bird to write new entrance music for the Stories from Across the Street show. But at the same time, I wanted to use the same ending with the Ric Flair and all that. And so it ends with the Barbarian saying that, "We'll see you later," from Body Slam. So, By the way, just nobody think that we're, the Beatles aren't breaking up here. I'm just doing this show as an extra thing randomly when guys have good stories. So don't, Sheik understands the deal. So
additional content.
Exactly. I've got so many ideas. I was talking to Kroll last night and I thought up 2 shows for him. And it's just like, Jimmy, you don't have enough time. Quit making up show ideas, So, brother, it's like under the wire sometimes, So Anyway, well, I'm going to shut up. I think we've got our intro here, but I think we should just get our guest Derek on. What do you think, Sheik?
Yeah, man, let's get to it. I'm anxious to talk to him.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages for more of Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, it's the Heat Miser Scotty Blaze, and I'm inviting all of y'all to join me on my brand new podcast, Turning Up the Heat with the Heat Miser Scotty Blaze. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and join me. I'll be covering all the events of the day, global, national, pop culture, movies, gaming, whatever sounds interesting, but I'll also be playing some awesome skating shuffle music from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, anything that has a good beat, I'm going to be playing it. You can rest assured. Come on over, tuthradio.com. The podcast is on every major podcast platform. See you then.
All right, we are back with more from the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And like I told everybody in the intro, we've got an excellent guest. We've got the Kings Road Slayer, Derek Neal. Derek, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
Our pleasure, man. Good to have you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're excited for this. I tell you, brother, I was looking at your match history and it's just like, where do we stop? Like, there's like part 2, part 3, part 4. I swear to God, man, you're the busiest wrestler I think I've talked to. And because a lot of the guys, they wrestled back in the Outlaws and, we don't unfortunately talk to as many current guys. And man, I know you've been doing it, 20 years almost? I'm looking at your matches. I don't see a stopping point, brother. So how you feeling today?
Well, I'm glad I got the weekend off.
Yeah,
rest the body up a little bit. But yeah, I just hit 20 years for my first match in February of this year.
Wow!
Wow,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I started young. I started training like 16 weeks before I turned 17, and then I had my first match a few months later, and then obviously kept continuing to train as I was working.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, to kind of start the show off here, we always start with the Sheik's favorite question here. Sheik, take it away.
All right, Derek, this is going to just tell us your influences and tell the listeners your influence is in the wrestling business. If you could give us a list of 4 or 5 guys, like your Mount Rushmore of wrestling, who would that be?
Oh, man. That's so tough because honestly, there's so many greats out there. But I'm gonna have to say Ric Flair's my GOAT.
Yeah.
I know we've always had the debate, right? Flair or Michaels, but for me, it's Flair. No offense to Michaels. I mean, he's one of the best ever, but Flair was kind of a mold for that, I think, in my opinion.
Amen.
And then as far as 2 guys that have heavily influenced me, especially in the last, I would say, 10 years as far as how I wrestle, how I carry myself, I'm going to have to go with Stan Hansen and Bam Bam Terry Gordy. I feel like those guys aren't talked about enough.
Amen.
I think Gordy was probably one of the best big men to ever do it. I've never seen a guy. I still haven't really seen a guy that moves like he did. Especially if you go back and look at his, a lot of his All Japan stuff. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I would have to probably say Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What? I love it.
Growing up for me, when I was late elementary school into going into junior high, that was the Attitude Era. And there was, and I can at least confirm, you know, in my school years, there was nobody that wasn't talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
From the nerdy kid to the all-star quarterback, you know, of the junior high football team. They were all talking about him. Everybody was.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. No, that's true though. And you know, like Stone Cold, man, it's funny because he, you know, was stunning Steve, and like nobody, it seems like people always forget about the earlier Stone Cold too, you know, even though he wasn't Stone Cold.
Oh man, he was amazing.
Exactly. I love that guy. The Dangerous Alliance and stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah. Hollywood Blondes.
I was so jealous. I was trained by Chris Michaels, and I was looking back for YouTube, and Chris actually got to work with Stunning Steve in '94.
Yeah,
I came across that about a month or so ago.
Yeah, that's wild. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking back to my high school days. Like everybody was either obsessed with Stone Cold, the NWO, or DX, or something like that. I mean,
or Goldberg, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the Goldberg. You'd have people starting to talk about The Rock in the Nation too. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
During that time. Yeah. It's just if you really think about it was a really hot time for factions.
Absolutely was.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think those four are awesome. And I love to see those big bruiser dudes, which makes sense for you. You know, that's kind of the way you wrestle. And I love that, man. And you know, the funny thing is like, I don't think we've heard Terry Gordy on anybody's list. So you get extra points for that. And then Stan Hansen, we've had it on a couple guys' list, but still, you know, tiny wangers, man.
Well, if it ain't the teeny wangers.
I love that dude.
That movie is great. I know some people shit on that movie, but I think it's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome movie.
I still watch it.
Yeah, man, dude. Oh, dude, totally. I love it just for his part. You know what I'm saying? Like just for Stan's part. It's so funny. And then you got Bill Eadie at the start. You know, wrestling. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The Stan Hansen part, or the what's that smell?
What's that smell?
Dookie.
Those are like the two best parts of the movie, probably.
I know, man. I know. I love it.
The reactions are the best, man. Just the way he would react to stuff was awesome.
Yeah, I think we just figured out your part two is we're going to do a watch along of No Holds Barred.
Yeah,
I think that might be
good, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, after we do the Mount Rushmore question, we always start with this. And you know, we've kind of talked a little bit about stuff, and we're just going to do it again. So the younger days, man, where were you born? Where did you go to high school? That kind of stuff.
Okay, so I was born here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Lived here my entire life. And then as far as high school, I graduated from Bowling Green High School, which a lot of people don't really know because he was always billed from Mudlick, Kentucky, but it's the same high school Hillbilly Jim went to.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a crazy story, and I know it's kind of a segue, but it was my first time meeting a big name wrestler. So this was back in the Coliseum video days.
Yeah.
So I'm at my buddy's house, and we're watching the Stone Cold Steve Austin, like the first like VHS that ever dropped, you know, kind of covering his career a little bit. We watch it, and I go outside, and I see this big ass man across the road washing his giant Lincoln Continental, big white Lincoln Continental, and it was Hillbilly Jim. His mom lived across the street from my friend.
Wow.
So I got a piece of notebook paper, and I walked over there and got his autograph.
Dude.
While I was washing his car.
That is awesome.
He's a sweetheart of a guy. I'd later see him every once in a while when I was working at Kroger, like before breaking into business. And I remember one time I specifically saw him right after the gimmick battle royal deal at WrestleMania 17. And you know, I remember that specific conversation because that's when I kind of like braved up enough to tell him I wanted to try and be in the business.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you know, the only thing, I mean, I'm sure he was probably, you know, looking at this 120-pound kid like, you know, what the hell are you doing? But you know, he did give me, you know, well wishes of good luck, I guess, you know, breaking in.
That's awesome. So I would assume in the same high school, he probably played some sports. Did you also play some sports at Bowling Green?
I did. I was a little bit of a different bird, as you would say. I did play football on up until junior high, but at the same time, and being from the South, this is probably gonna, knock some people for a loop. But I played hockey.
Hockey, nice. Okay, I thought I remembered that about you. Yeah,
I was a center, and I played. I played both. So you have roller hockey on inline skates, right? So I played that, and I played ice. I played both. Okay. Now I would play. We had an inline league here locally, but I would have to go to Nashville to play ice because that was the closest ice rink around that was regulation size that had a league. And I was pretty good at it too. As far as like roller hockey here in our town, and in high school, I won the scoring title like 3 out of 4 years.
Dude,
nice.
I scored the overtime winner for the championship my sophomore year, and the game winning goal in the penalty shootout my senior year.
That's awesome, dude.
It was kind of like we also have a college here. You have Western Kentucky University, and they would put me under other guys' names, but I would be a ringer if a guy missed, and I was doing that as a freshman in high school playing college club level.
Dude, that's awesome.
So I was pretty good at it. And I mean, the original plan for me before, breaking into business was University of Louisville, which is only like an hour and a half up the road from me. Mm-hmm. At the time, they did have men's team, NCAA, but it was Division III. My plan was to actually go and walk on my freshman year in college, but they actually closed the program due to budget cuts at the end of my sophomore year. And then a few months later, I started training to be a wrestler.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, how would you translate, being a hockey player to wrestling? How would you translate that?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's pretty easy. At least with if you look at the inline hockey, there's no contact allowed, as far as body checks or anything like that. But ice hockey there was. So it was pretty easy to translate and, transfer violence from ice hockey to pro wrestling. It wasn't very hard.
That's cool. I think it's cool, man, that you first of all, that's an original sport for this show. You've already said Terry Bam Bam Gordy. Now you've said you played hockey. I think you're the first wrestler to say you played hockey on the show. So I'm thinking this is turning out to be a great episode, man. I'm excited. So
we're on the start for a hot start, Bubba. Let's just hope I don't start slow and taper off towards the end,
Well, that's how you got to do it, man. That's that's the outlaw way, man.
That's the outlaw way of doing it. That's right.
So when did you start liking wrestling?
Very early. My grandfather was who got me into wrestling. Now, he would, being where he was in Kentucky, he would get a lot of the Ghoulish TV in Nashville.
Yeah, so, that's awesome.
He would watch like Tojo, Zebra Kid, Gypsy Joe, a lot of those guys. So he's the one that was the big wrestling fan. And when I was young, I want to say I was probably 4 or 5 years old. He found some old VHS tapes and gave them to me to take home.
Yeah.
And, some of them were like WWF, Saturday TV. And then, but one tape that I'll never forget is obviously it was WrestleMania 3 that he recorded on VHS.
Yes.
And as cliche as it sounds, I did watch Savage and Steamboat, and then that was it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Yeah.
So I would say since about 5 years old is kind of when I fell in love with it.
That's awesome. I mean, who wouldn't? I think that was very similar for us. I mean, I remember, I feel like, we watched Crockett a lot when we were growing up, but also I remember WrestleMania 3 we rented that, and my dad was trying to pick apart, here's where it was fake. And I'm like, shut up, Dad. It's not fake. You can't tell me it's fake. That's just a parent thing, right? And my dad was never a wrestling fan, so they always like to try to pick that out. Now I would say, Dad, it's fixed. It's not fake. Shut up. Love you.
My dad was kind of in the same boat until and even hated the idea of me training and all that.
Yeah.
And then I was probably over a decade into my career when I got him to come watch me at a show.
Yeah.
And then he saw me just like piss off 300 people, and he just got a kick out of that. Now he thinks it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And I it's funny. I feel like if my dad would have come to see me do a little bit of what I did, I think he would probably have at least appreciated the theatrics of it.
Oh yeah, I like honestly, like I remember when we were all installed together. You were a little bit of a heater.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you saying that, brother. Yeah.
For sure.
I wish we could have worked more together, brother. I really do, man. You were doing a lot of stuff outside of there, so I was just kind of in that area and stuff. So,
as a brother, he always knew how to push my button. So, I mean.
I started with my brother. Yeah, exactly.
Brothers are good at that. I got a younger brother, 7 years difference, and it's been a few years, but my mom apologized to me for all the groundings and spankings I got from the times that my brother claimed that I hit him and I never did.
Yeah, exactly. So. Well, I was dumb enough to write my brother's initials on the wall before he could write. So I was trying to get him in trouble. But
see, there's such a big gap between me and my brother, so it was never like physical between us, but it was, it was psychological warfare.
Yes, exactly. That's
all the time.
I used to tell him to run to the fridge to get me something to drink, and I would act like I was timing him, and I would be like, "Oh, that's the fastest one ever. Next time, I bet you can beat it." It's horrible, man. Right? It's horrible. I know. Yeah. Well, anyway, enough about us. Back to you, Derek. So, all right. So we talked a little bit about it before the show started, but I can't let this go unmentioned. We are all three huge Cincinnati Reds fans. So obviously,
100%.
Yeah. This was one thing.
Detriment.
Yes, exactly. To our hearts and souls. But it shows that we're true fans of baseball. Let's just say that, because if we love the Reds, we must really love baseball. So, but anyway, long story short, we've grown up Reds fans. Now, in our area of Virginia, the Reds were the team before the Braves came along. You know what I'm saying? Because WLW 700 AM would beam almost everywhere in the South, and when you could hear the Reds on, it's just like it's in our blood. I always used to say we bleed Cincinnati Red because, that's just how our family, it was my grandfather's favorite team, my father's, mine and my brother's. And, anyway, so I think it was cool. And that was something you and I early clicked on because, I think either you had a Reds bag or maybe I was wearing a hat and you were like, I think it was something you had. And I said, "Oh, dude, you're a Reds fan." And then that automatically made me like you. So
maybe been the hat. It might have been a hat. I wore Reds hats a lot. And then, I do got a Barry Larkin jersey. So,
me too.
And a Ken Griffey. So.
Yeah. I've got one of the red 80s style, the V-cut neck with the red all over, and it's got a Larkin. Because I think Larkin's probably
is it the Cooperstown collection?
Yes, it is, exactly.
Yeah. I got the exact same one, yeah. I actually got it at a Great American Ballpark.
That is, that's awesome. I got mine online, so you've beat me. I get it. That's cool. I quit going to Reds games because every time we go, they lose. So it's just like, man, I don't want to be a jinx,
actually, I was lucky that day we did win. It's been a few years, but it was. That's when Chappie was closer.
Oh, okay, very cool.
And Milwaukee was in town, and it was truly a sight to behold watching Chappie pitch, because when he would throw, like, the only thing you would hear is just the hit of the mitt. You wouldn't even see the ball.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane.
Yeah, dude. And I think that was probably when, like, Rich Hall used to kill us for the Brewers. I remember him playing for the Brewers.
Yes. Yeah, we had Hall. They had Hall. They had Braun.
Maybe our coach,
Corey
Derek
Hart.
Bell, too. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, Corey Hart was there, which is Corey Hart's also a product of Bowling Green. He graduated from the same school as my wife, same year.
Nice. And he played. I saw him play at the Nashville Sounds too when they were a Brewers organization. Are they still there?
Yeah. I believe they're still AAA for Milwaukee.
Yeah. I always hated that, but it was cool. Still cool to see teams play.
I mean, now, like, well, you've heard about the White Sox moving, right?
Right. Yeah.
Supposedly Nashville's a contender for them, which, I mean, I think they should have had MLB years ago.
I would love to see that.
Done well.
Yeah. Okay,
myself,
so
but,
you're still going to be a Reds fan though, because you're a Bowling Green guy. So it's not.
Oh yeah, that ain't going to change. I mean, for a long time. I mean, Cincinnati geographically was
the team.
Was the team. I mean, and now it's usually like Cincinnati Cubs or St. Louis, which that's where my wife's originally from, St. Louis. So me and my father-in-law, we have some fun chats.
That's awesome. I love it.
They're diehard Cards fans. Can't hate them for it. That's where they're from. But
I respect that. Yeah. Yeah. If you're from there, it's cool. But come on, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like you can't knock it if that's where they're from.
Yeah, I respect it. So other than that, you should be a Reds fan no matter where you live. If you don't live in the city of the team, you got to be a Reds fan. That's just the new rule.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like and especially like where I live, that's the closest proximity to an MLB team.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah. I think it's really close for where we're from and where Jared lives. It's like either the Reds or the Braves are probably the closest. Maybe I don't think the Nationals are close enough. But
are you boys originally in West Virginia?
No, we're from southwestern Virginia, so like near Bristol, Tennessee.
Gotcha.
Really, we're like 45 minutes from almost every state line, basically. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I've wrestled one town I've wrestled at. Like it's in like way eastern Kentucky, but it's called Whitesburg, Kentucky.
Oh, I know. Little town, man. Small
town. Like you can spit and hit Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. Dude. Yeah. So I assume it's similar for wrestling, but they have a radio station there. It's kind of like alternative radio station there. And my band would come into Whitesburg and actually play a show. It was like a stop on our tours. And dude, those kids would pour out of the mountain to come watch music, man. So I'm assuming it's similar for wrestling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, really, towns like that, and honestly, like as silly as it sounds, like, well, I mean, when I was coming up, like that's where you would see the bigger houses were in the little towns because there wasn't much going on.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's cool. Yeah. Anyway, well, let's get like you were going. Let's get back to wrestling here. So obviously, you said you were trained by Chris. So is that kind of talk about the start of wrestling for you? How'd you get into it?
Okay. So the start of wrestling for me, there was a local, and it's been a couple of times as a kid. I have gone and watched. I'm sure. Have you guys heard of Dale Mann?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Legendary promoter in the state of Kentucky and all that, but like he would run shows, so that's kind of how I got introduced to like independent it was in the 90s, so I guess you could say outlaw, whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I got kind of introduced that there was a different world outside of WWF or WCW, So, I did go to an independent show as a young kid, and, I met this guy. I can't remember his name. Shit. Kenny something. It may come to me later, but his first name was Kenny. He was a promoter, and then I did meet this other guy named Randall Hessen, who was Kid Dynamite, who said he was going to train me. And he did for the first few sessions. And within it was kind of weird because at that time, like, the promotion that Kenny ran, they lost the building, and then Terry England from UCW here in Kentucky moved in to take it. Well, Randall continued to work for Terry, and Chris Michaels just happened to watch one of my training sessions, and before the show that night, kind of pulled me to the side and told me that he thought, as far as like basics and things like that, I was doing well, and I seemed to have potential.
Yeah.
So, long story short, Randall tried to continue to get me to pay him money, even though he wasn't training me. So he wrenched me out. He wrenched me out of a few $100. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha, man.
And then I ran into Chris at another town called Cave City, not too far from where I live. And, I kind of told Chris the deal because where we already talked before, where he thought I had, done decent. And then Chris, we worked out an agreement where Chris would charge me so much per session. And honestly, compared to the expertise and experience that Chris had to other trainers, it was a sweetheart of a deal.
I bet. Yeah.
Chris downheartedly is like one of the best one of the most good-hearted guys I've ever known. I think he's very selfless, in my opinion.
Super underrated. Super.
Very.
Like Bobby Eaton level underrated, honestly.
Dude, the man couldn't have a bad match if he tried.
That's what Chase Stevens said in an interview we did with him. He's like, I've tried to have a bad match with Chris and could not do it. It's just,
you can't do it. You can't do it with that guy.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
No kidding.
So, he took a young kid under his wing, 17 years old, showed him the ropes. And it's funny that you mentioned Chase. Chris would let me train with Chase as well. Chase had a few students.
Yeah.
And I would train with Chase in Cave City. I would train with Chris in Cave City. I would even train with Chase sometimes in Madison, Tennessee.
Cool.
When Tony Falk was running USWO down there.
Yeah.
Those guys helped me out. I think that they could see that I wanted it bad enough, and I was willing to do whatever it took to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
I was lucky that those guys pulled in to help me out.
That's very cool.
Even Chase gave me a per session rate as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because a lot of guys are like, it's 1,500 down, 1,500 later, whatever. And, or it's 500 now, and then they run you to death. And then when you come back, it's another 500. And yeah.
Well, and that's kind of how it was back then. They wrote boys in, stretch them, whatever, try to make them quit because they were, heavily more trying to protect wrestling. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy for me. I mean, they ran it on me. They tested me, to see if this is what I really wanted or not. But, I got through it.
I love it. I think it's awesome.
So, Derek, when do you consider like your first match? When was that, and what like promoter was that for? And
so my first match was I think it was like February 23rd of 2003. Small promotion in Gallatin, Tennessee called SWA.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what the letters stand for. I think it's Southern Wrestling Association. It's been a long time, but I worked with the local promoter there. His name was Tim Scruggs. He had a hooded gimmick that he did called Master Dragon, and that was my very first match. As far as the finish that I remember, he had me on the up and up, had him on the heels, and he got the gimmick out, blasted me with a chain, 1, 2, 3, whatever. But that was my first experience in this little tiny VFW hall in Gallatin.
That's cool. Yeah, nice. That's very cool. So in 2004, you actually end up making your way to the USWO, and it shows that your very first match with the USWO was with Farron Fox. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But you're right. I paired with Farron Fox. So to give you a little backstory. So I did the stuff in Gallatin. Chris Michaels actually had his own promotion called UCW Tennessee. Okay, gotcha.
Based out of Springfield. I did some work there in 2003, and then whenever I was finally old enough to get my Kentucky wrestling license, I did work in Kentucky in the fall and winter of 2003. On into 2004, I kind of bounced back and forth between Kentucky and Tennessee, and then it was the fall of 2004 is when I come to Madison, Tennessee for USWO, and I ended up teaming with Richard Lowe and Farron Fox as the fashionable males.
Nice.
I'll never forget it. We did a thing where we took a spike and we gouged out Ty Blade's eye.
Okay.
In Madison, and we did it in Madison. It was on Harris Street, Madison, Tennessee, and I'll never forget it because we had to get I'm very early in my career, but we had to get like an escort to our car.
Yeah,
because we had so much heat.
Yeah,
right off the jump.
That's awesome, dude. Man, you're learning it fast.
Quick. I was lucky that I got to experience that. Like, you would think that's scary, and yeah, it sounds scary, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's an adrenaline rush that I just can't explain.
Yeah.
But eventually, I did turn babyface and began to work with Farron.
Yeah.
A little bit, so it might be the first match that you saw.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, I did get to do it. And like Farron was great because like I didn't know shit about TV, local, whatever. Like didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like Farron was a guy that taught me how to work hard cam, taught me how to look at the camera when cutting a promo, you know, and like the little things as far as like your facials, intensity, things like that. Like Farron showed me all that very, very early in my career. I was very lucky that he got to do that for me.
That's awesome, man.
But,
that's very cool.
You know, he showed it. He's the first person that I ever worked with in my career that showed me how television works.
That's awesome, man. But I mean, that's important, and you're learning it early on too, which is awesome.
Yeah, very. You know, and you know, like, and just like guys like, you know, like Tony and Kroll, you know, giving us a young guys a chance.
Yeah.
You know, for people to watch our stuff, not only, you know, for the people buying the ticket, but for people who happen to click it over to the channel where we're on TV. Yeah,
exactly. That's very cool.
So I see here in 2007, you worked for UCW and you tagged with Doug Vines and Ricky Morton.
How was working with those guys?
Like, even like, I want to say it may have been like 06, maybe. I got to work with Doug Vines, and you know, and Doug is really known for working for Angelo Poffo.
Exactly, the Poffos, man. That's what.
He's one of the barroom brawlers.
Yeah.
As far as a person, one of the funniest guys ever. I mean, absolutely hilarious. But like, whenever I started, you know, in late 03 at UCW in Tennessee, Doug was doing a lot of the booking then at that time.
Okay.
I learned so much from him, and eventually we got to where like we were booked in an angle against each other.
Nice.
I still have that. I still have the blow off. I think laying on. It's on VHS laying around in my house somewhere.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from Doug. Like as far as like the psychological aspect of the game, drawing heat, getting people, you know, just downright getting people to care, you know, as far as what you're doing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I got to get Doug Vines on a podcast, man.
Doug is a wealth of knowledge and like very as somebody that like I'm extremely grateful for that I got to have that early in my career.
Yeah. How'd you feel tagging with Ricky Morton? I think it was like a 6-man tag or maybe, but
it was a 6-man tag. It may have been Brownsville, Kentucky. Maybe.
I don't know. I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Which was I actually, if memory serves me correct, I did a double shot that night. Yeah, I think I went from either Franklin or Nashville to Brownsville, which you don't hear about double shots much anymore.
No, you don't. Yeah.
That's kind of a thing of the past.
It is.
But yeah, getting to work with somebody like Ricky was wild. I mean, it was because you know I did watch Ricky growing up as a kid. You know,
course.
And just it was definitely that surreal feeling, right? Like if you see like somebody you looked up to as a kid, whether they were an athlete, television personality, whatever, you know, it was almost like a pinch me moment, I guess.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I could compare it to. And then like now I'm fast forwarding way later on, but like even getting to work with Ricky and Robert I couldn't believe the shit was happening.
I'm sure, dude.
Yeah, really
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, that was our tag team growing up. Before I dyed my hair clear, I was blonde and my brother was dark hair. So we were Ricky and Robert. And so, you know, I even had people call me Ricky sometimes. I'll be like, my name is Jimmy, but call me Ricky, you know. We were total.
Another crazy story.
Yeah.
I was in Tennessee, like working for Chris at the time. And Chris got Bobby to come in.
Oh man.
It's the first time I ever met Bobby. Okay. So like Chris is doing this angle, Bobby comes in, and then like him and Chris have it out, and then like it's like we're all backstage in this one single room, but there's 2 doors.
Yeah.
You know, so we got like a baby and a hill door, right? And during the schmoz thing, like I wasn't working that night, so I was security.
Yeah, okay.
I watched Chris throw Bobby into the wall, and Bobby just like headbutts the shit out of this wall, man, and puts like the biggest hole in it. And I'm like, I'm sitting here like, what the f- is going on? And so, like, it's like intermission. I go back to the back, and Bobby's laughing his ass off, drinking his coffee. I'm like, this son of a bitch is crazy. I never seen nothing like it in my life. That was the first time, that was the first night I met Bobby Eaton.
Yeah.
God, man,
is that really how he is?
But sweetheart of a guy, man.
Yeah.
Bobby was the best.
He really was, man. And getting to know him, the just a little bit that I did, he honestly got me over with a lot of the veterans at Saul, because I had worked with him some in Virginia. And then I came out and then managed him a match up in Kentucky for Porter, and then actually managed him again at Porter's in Nashville. And then I get to Saul, and he's sitting there, and I walk in immediately. And that back row where like Reno and Cersei and Wolfie would sit back on the back wall there, kind of in front of the green. Yep. So I walked up to Bobby. He jumps up and says, "Hey, brother." And he gives me a big hug. And I look out of the corner of my eye, and I see Reno and Wolfie looking at each other. They're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like, and then Reno makes these like hand gestures, and you can imagine it. He's like, "Well, if Bobby likes him, I guess it's all right," So yeah, that was awesome.
Actually, I talked to Reno not too long ago on the phone.
That's awesome.
Just kind of catching up and stuff. Yeah.
Great guy. He's going to be on the show soon.
Reno's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
we're going to get him.
Y'all got to get him on. I'm going to tell you right now, that man has got like a great amount of stories that he could share.
I mean, he not only can talk about the Mount Rushmore, we'll probably ask him, like, out of the guys you wrestled, who is on the Mount Rushmore? Because it's all of them, So,
Oh, yeah, man. Like, he's done, as far as, like, the guys who are the guys in this business, like, he's been in the ring with all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he really has,
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to Derek Neal now. So, Derek, in 2008, you make your way back to USWO, and you're actually working there pretty regularly. And there, for the first while, you're absolutely married to Richard Lowe. You're working him constantly. But you also, you're tagging with White Tiger. You're working Kevin Dunn, Chris Norte. You pass the heavyweight title back and forth with our buddy Mike Jablonski. Obviously, you get to work Jamie Dundee as the convict. Then another guy you end up getting married to, Damian Payne. You guys work together a lot. Tim Renesto, you tag with Psychomedic. Talk about your time there, especially during that time.
Man, the memories like instantly came flooding back when you said that. Like with Jablonski, like that was the first time. Like so during that time when I was working with Jablonski and I got the USWO Heavyweight Championship, I think that's in that timeline if I'm not mistaken.
It is, yes, sir. Yeah, it is.
I did get I was working with Damian Payne. I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday night. I remember it was Valentine's Day because I got heat with my wife because I took a booking.
What are you going to do?
I did the deal, try to smooth it over, go out to dinner before making the town, right?
Of course, yeah. Come on, baby, help me out.
I took a drop kick from Damian Payne or John Wayne Murdoch. Wasn't his fault.
Right.
I think it was just he caught me at the right place, but I ended up getting a grade 2 tear in my AC joint.
Oh,
and then I'm trying to think. I think that last night that I took. Well, no, it was during that time we worked with Mitch Ryder in a 3-way.
Yeah,
it was me, Jablonski, and Mitch.
Yeah,
and I'll never forget that night, man. I was riding with Mitch Ryder. My headlights went out in my car. That's for a whole nother story if you got time.
Sure.
I almost stabbed a hobo at the Stadium Inn. All right. So let's go ahead. We'll preface that first. So it was a Saturday night show, and at that time, that's when Tony Falk, Bill DeShields, they was like kind of co-promoting together, running that ATL wrestling on Saturday night. And that night they had that was a big show. Like the main event that night was Wrestling Dad. Chris. That's my dad. I call him Dad all the time because he's old. Don't tell him that. He worked with Densmore. All right. I got this shitty '87 Honda, and the stick that controls the headlights broke out of the mother. I've had it happen once before on another car, so I'm trying to stick a The only thing I got was my pocket knife. The first time I had a flathead screwdriver in the middle of a tornado warning.
Oh,
man. Trying to keep the lights on. All I had was a little case pocket knife, and I'm sitting here trying to jimmy it, trying to get the headlights to come on.
Yeah.
And I had my window down, and this hobo just comes up in my window, sticks his head in there, and goes, "Hey!" and almost stuck the blade right in his neck.
Oh my God!
And part of why I'm saying, man, I dog cussed that son of a bitch because it scared me, man. Like,
yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm like, God, the guy's probably just asking for money. I'm glad I didn't stick him. And then, but at the same time, I'm mad because he come up in there in my space.
Yeah. Right.
That was a hell of a night. My old lady went to like a concert in like Louisville and had to like come pick me up like after the concert at like 4 a.m. down in Nashville.
Oh man!
Get me back home to Bowling Green, and then we had to drive back home while it's daylight out for me to get the ride back. You know?
Yeah.
Crazy shit.
Oh man!
But during that time, I'm sorry I got so segued, but I got to work with Jablonski and even Mitch, and that was kind of my break in to the Midwest. Was because of that.
Yeah,
because of that match that we had. And then Renesso, I got to work with him in Nashville, but also down in Shelbyville.
Yeah, okay.
At the time, the Mullins brothers were the promoters down there,
right?
And I got to work a match or two with him down there at I think it's called Stadium Cab Company down in Shelbyville.
Stadium Cab,
I-24 a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of history there, during that time. Who else did you mention there?
So I mentioned, you were married to Richard Lowe. We talked about that. You tagged with White Tiger. Yeah. Kevin Dunn, Chris Norte, Jamie Dundee, all that.
Chris Norte, man, heard that name in a while, man.
No, well, you were with him a lot. You looked like you worked around.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like Norte. Good guy. Another fellow Cincinnati Reds fan.
Exactly. He was a Giants fan, and then he moves to Cincinnati and gets a real team.
Yep. Well, he was originally from California, I think, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty positive. Right. Yeah. So he was okay.
He chose the right side of things. So I
sure did.
Have heat with him.
No, not a bit. I was in a bad spot. I was in a bad spot one time coming through Nashville, and I was like, man, I need a soft place to fall tonight, brother. Can you help me out? And he was like, yeah, come on. And I did. It was nice. I've always liked Norte, so it's been
good.
Cool.
Good. He's good people, man. Like I've honestly, throughout my career and working with him, I never had a bad interaction with him. Now he did have a tag partner, I think, New York Gangster.
Yeah. Okay.
They tagged for. I did not have a good interaction with him one time and had to get held back in the locker room.
I'd love to hear about that.
No, it was kind of over a finish and how things went in the match. Basically, things did not go according to plan.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost my shit a little bit.
Understand.
But never had a problem with Norte at all. I mean, he's always been cool with me and respectful.
He's a cool dude. He is,
As far as business, he always try to do business. You know what I mean?
I got to manage him against Ricky Morton, which was one of my life's goals, was to manage against Ricky Morton. So it was fun. Yeah. But Norte that was fun, man. It wasn't very long. And Ricky was like, the nicest thing Ricky said to me was like, brother, I wish we used you more. And I'm like, it's okay, buddy. I didn't need any of that. I just needed to stand out there, right? I'm in the record books against Ricky Morton. That's all I needed, so.
But yeah, like, man, that time, like, at the Stadium Inn, like, it was wild, like, because if you think about it, like, you had ATL wrestling, you had USWO.
Exactly.
There was a guy named Billy Woodard, like, he would run this A1 wrestling.
Okay.
Sometimes, man, I would work 3 nights a week in the same building.
Wow.
Like, it was wild, it wasn't, like, if you think about it, like it was wild, like it was good for us boys, getting work, but like it was kind of bad for the promoters, because
right.
And it ain't a knock on nobody, but you kind of oversaturate the area, right?
You do, yeah. You basically had 4 nights of wrestling in East Nashville, if you counted Porter on Thursday, So
it was kind of a running joke. Like I'd hear guys like sometimes talk about it, like when I was like early in my career, like 04, 05. You talk about the boys, we could be 40 milers and work 5 nights a week.
You really could, man. It was easy, actually, you know?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I would do it. You know, I would do the double shot from Laverne to Nashville.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Try to clean up a little bit on some money.
Yeah. Might as well.
Bit.
Right. Yeah. So you brought him up, and I do want to talk about it. Like you said, that you got into Mitch Ryder's XCW Midwest out there. So obviously you did get out there into another territory from working at the USWO. Talk a little bit about what got you there, especially, you know.
Oh man. So like obviously a lot of it was like, so during that time that you're talking about, like with like Jablonski and all that, you know, I told you I got the AC joint tear.
Yeah.
The doctor, it got to the point where the doctor told me, like, look, you know, you're going to take time off or you're going to worsen it and completely tear it, and we're going to have to drill your collarbone down onto your shoulder. So I went in that night. I'll never forget it. So I might talk about a little bit of my party indiscretions.
Yeah, sure.
But at the time, you know, you had the Sparks energy drink, right? The alcohol energy drink.
I very much remember that one. Yeah.
So yeah, I would call this the double whammy. So like you'd take a pint of Jaeger, you knock it down, and you chase it with the Sparks.
Yes. Wow, that's like a super Jaeger bomb. The double whammy. I like
shoulder. A buddy of mine, and I was even playing adult league hockey at the time, like roller hockey.
Oh
even with his shoulder being bad.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine was a chiropractor. You know, good old Canadian guy, you know, good guy. He got me all taped up and stuff so I could get through this match. And I get down to the stadium, knock down my stuff so I get through this shit and I feel nothing.
Yeah.
I go through the match where I can get through it. And I took a couple months off, and you know, and then when I was ready to come back, you know, it was kind of perfect timing because you know, my second son Jackson was about to be born.
Okay.
Around that time.
Yeah.
And then we already had to stop his labor twice, and like both times I was on the road. And she had to go in and get the labor stopped. So you know, so like I was like, well, you know, it'd probably be good to take time off, you know, to heal and the baby and all that. So I did that. Got to talking to Chris, and you know, Chris got me put in touch with Todd Morton, who was booker for Mitch at XCW Midwest. But he was also booking for another Kentucky promotion. They ran kind of closer to Lexington, Kentucky. So I went out there and worked. Todd, and, you know, me and Todd really hit it off, me and Todd Morton, which Todd Morton's had a great career in his own right. You know,
absolutely.
Together in Memphis, and
yeah,
he did a lot of enhancement stuff in WCW. Like, he did a lot of really good things. And and then Todd got me in there. You know, once Todd kind of finished my name, Mitch was like, yeah, let's bring the kid in. And then actually rewind back, Mitch had kind of like a feeder system called XCW Ground Zero. I did work that right before I took my time off. And I think I did a 3-way with, it may have been Damian Payne and Shane Smalls. I can't remember for sure.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. And then I took my time off, but then I came back when I was ready to come back off the injury. I started doing those Kentucky towns, and then I got to meet Bull Payne for the first time.
Nice.
Which was a trip.
Yeah.
And me and Bull hit it off pretty good. And then I got to XCW Midwest, and like through that, like I started as a heel. I think I was a heel the whole time. My first match with XTW was actually against Plunky, Jeremiah Plunkett.
Nice.
In a court in Indiana, and I was actually a babyface for that match. I went over, Todd liked my stuff, wanted to make me a heel, and then like I got to be with like the who's who, and this is how I really learned how to work like a heel. So I got to be in the stable with Todd Morton, Cody Hawk, and Bull Payne.
Wow. That's a crew.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Oh, man. Was it ever. I got to learn a shit ton. Like, this is such a great time in my career. So, like, I had that, and then, like, they had Mike Bucci coming in as Supernova. Or Simon, no, he was doing Simon Dean. And so, like, he was on, you know, he was building up. Eventually, it built up to him and Chris for the title, because I want to say Simon had the championship whenever the blow-off happened. But Simon it was right around the time Simon got released from OVW. And so like he was giving me advice and didn't have to.
Yeah.
Like just watching my matches, I come back and say, hey, do this, and do this. And I made sure the next time I come back through it, and I would work on that, but I make sure I pretty much had it down to a T at the next date, because they would only run like the first Tuesday of every month for Mitch. So I made sure I had it down to a T, and like basically I was getting free training from a former WWE talent scout for like a half a year.
Dude, that's awesome. That's amazing.
You know, I'm very lucky I got to do that. Like 4 of those 6 months, I got to dress next to Ricky Morton, and Ricky actually told me, "Hey kid, grab a chair, please come sit next to me," and I just listened.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't only taught about like things about the wrestling business, but all those things that he taught me, like I could apply it to real life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, dude, can you imagine? I mean, the young Derek Neal sitting there thinking he was going to be sitting there chewing the fat with the man himself. I mean, that's crazy, dude. That's
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like that time was so wild. Like I had that. Like I got to work with like one guy that I don't think he's talked about enough, and he should be. His name's Chad Collier.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was one of the last students out of the Dean Malenko school.
Yeah.
And, I worked with him right when he come back from Japan.
Dude.
He's doing this character called, I think it was like a Super Metal Master or Metal Master when I got to work with him.
Yeah.
And he was literally in the opening while we were working. He's literally putting himself in holds for me, like doing it for me. I'm like, what the? I'm like, how are we getting here? And the funny thing is, I don't think he's working shows anymore, but I know the motherfucker does magic, like magic tricks. Like
wow. Okay. That's cool.
So go figure.
Yeah.
The guy should have had a job. Like
yeah.
Through that, and like I eventually found his Ring of Honor stuff that he did. Holy shit, that guy was great.
Yeah. You know, and you talked about Bull Payne. Anybody go out there and look up Bull Payne's history. And I don't want to change it from Chad, but Bull Payne wrestled in the AWA when it was hot, 84 to 90, and he's in WCW everywhere.
He was one of the original Texas Hangmen.
Exactly.
He was one of the originals.
Yeah. I think he was Psycho maybe or something in that team. But anyway, I know the Texas Hangman is probably his most famous tag team. But when it comes down to it, that dude was jobbing in the AWA during the big days. 84, man. I mean, seriously, that's like the Remco toy days, you know? So
that or like he was doing global as and like I think in AWA he may have been quick Rick Gettner.
Yeah, I think you're right. Exactly.
If memory serves me correct. Like Bull, like I learned so much from that guy, man. I really did.
Yeah, go look at his history up. Anybody listening right now, go look at, if you don't know it already, go look up Bull Payne's match history. It's amazing. So
yeah, so in 2010 for MECW, looks like you worked Kyle O'Reilly.
Yes. Man, what a situation. So I actually talked to somebody about this not long ago, but yeah, I worked Kyle O'Reilly. That was he may have just signed his first ROH contract or right before it. I want to say during that time, I think that there was a time where he was based out of St. Louis and he was living with Davey Richards.
Oh, okay.
So I want to think that's close to this time, but I had a match with him and Daniel Engler or Rudy Charles.
Yeah. Or Dan Engler.
He was the referee in my match. Perfect situation. Kyle was a true pleasure to work with. I got to work with him a couple more times after that. But man, like we just went balls to the walls and just we kind of beat the shit out of each other a little bit. But like he was a really, really fun to work with. He really was.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's right, it's the Talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
So in 2011, I know we're just jumping here, but this is one I have to bring up because this guy means so much to all of us. But there was a show, it was Crossfire, Marcus Pistorius running a show that was a co-promotion with Saul. And now then he got into trouble and had to drop the name Saul from the gimmick because I think either TJ approved it and then Reno didn't want to approve it. But anyway, I've heard the full story from Kroll. I'm just not as up on it. But you got to tag with the Wild Boys. And here's the other team, okay? It was versus our boy, rest in peace, Josephus, Tracy Smothers, and a Moondog. First off, you got to tag with the Wild Boys. Talk about that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because actually all three of those guys on the other side, they ain't here with us no more.
Oh, man, that's horrible. I didn't know that about Moondog, so.
I kind of peeling back a little bit. The first time I know Tracy. First time I met Tracy, I was 18 years old, and I met him in Cave City, for Terry England.
Yeah.
But I got to work with Tracy in 2010. They surprised me with it. Chris surprised me with it, and I actually went over with Tracy, and it was crazy, man, because even in 2010, Tracy. Tracy kind of has mobility issues.
Sure. Yeah.
Back. But I'm going to tell you, when he turned the switch on, that shit was gone.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Because he was like, we ain't going to do a whole lot. And I'm like, okay, man. And I see him doing crunches in the floor.
Yeah.
And doing the shadow boxing stuff. And I'm like, man, he's kind of turned on a little bit. And he started calling stuff that I did not think that he would want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, God, I'm like, here we go, boys. We win. But I was surprised by a couple of guys like that in my career. I'll tell another one if that's okay after this.
Please, yeah, please.
So I will never forget that night at the fairgrounds. That was the second largest crowd I've ever been in front of in my life. I mean, it was a record-breaking crowd that night.
Yeah.
And if memory serves me correct, that may have been the first Crossfire show.
It was. Yes,
but
yeah.
Tracy pulled me to the side because I had to cut a promo to interrupt Tracy because he's doing a Legends thing.
Okay.
And Tracy's like, look, he says, I want you to go out there. You're going to talk shit. You're going to run down Lawler. You're going to run down, I think Mantell, Rocky Johnson was there that night.
Wow.
And then Tracy wanted me to call him one of the things that he hated the most in his life. He wanted me to call him an old man. He wanted me to end my statement with, you know what, old man, I don't like the way you look.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But what he said to me was, I don't know if he was he may have been serious, but it helped me get over my promo jitters, whether he knew it or not.
Sure.
He said, if you hit me in the ear, kid, I'm going to kill you. So that's all I'm worried about. Making sure that I place that slap in the right place.
Right.
It was wild, man. Just you couldn't hear yourself.
Yeah.
It was so loud out there.
Yeah.
I think somebody said that was one of the biggest attendances in the old Nashville, Fairgrounds Arena in 2 decades.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it outdrew TNA and all that.
Yeah.
But by him doing that, I worried more about the slap and forgot about the promo. So when I started talking on the mic, it felt like to me it kind of flowed off the tongue a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
But getting to share that with Tracy, my trainer, Chris was trained by Tracy, so was Chase.
Yeah.
Getting to share that with him, it was a big deal to me. It made me feel more connected to Chris and Tracy that I got to do that with him.
That's awesome.
And even with Josephus, I remember when Josephus was just a camera guy.
Yeah.
At USWO.
Yeah.
before he even started wrestling, like he would film at Tony's. He even filmed at Mitch Ryder's when I started there.
Gotcha.
And we would talk old wrestling all the time, old territory wrestling. Like he really appreciated and loved it, and like getting to share that with those two guys specifically, because I had such a connection to them. Like it meant the world to me that I got to do that with those guys.
Totally. Totally. I will say this. At one time when I was specifically working there with all you guys, my personal Mount Rushmore of the guys that I felt like were going to make it to the next level was Josephus, Jeremiah Plunkett, Drew Haskins, Derek Neal. Now, if I'm forgetting other people, and I'm not mentioning like Chris Michaels, Chase, Wolfie D, those guys, I'm talking about the guys that are right there that I feel like would have been to that next level. And you were on that list with Joe. I just felt like y'all looked real and you worked great. But that was my, while we brought up Joe, I wanted to tell you that, man, that I always thought that you were part of that,
Man, I appreciate that, man. Like, but seriously, getting to share that moment with like Joe. I mean, even with the Moondog guy, like that was a big deal to me. But just like, I was thinking specifically of Joe and Tracy, like getting to do that moment with them. Like,
yeah.
It really meant a lot to me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And then working with the Wild Boys. Now, they weren't the romping, stomping, baby faces that were fighting the devils for every match. These were a little older, wearing camos, wearing Wild Boys t-shirts, but still, they're the Wild Boys. And I don't care. I'm sure it was,
Well,
just
like even that made a big deal to me because like even during that time, like I really got to pick Ben and Steve's brains a lot. Like when we did Saw together.
Yeah.
And well, at that time too, like, my wife was a nurse. So there were sometimes she would work on a Friday night and I would bring my two oldest boys with me.
I know that feeling.
2 and 3 they were 2 and 3 at the time. Like I'd bring them with me, put them in the locker room. And like I'd have like Ben would help me with them sometimes. Like if I had to go to the ring or Shane Morton or Chris, so that way I could still stay working. Like if it wasn't for those guys, like I wouldn't be able to make the date, in truth. I wouldn't have. And then I just learned so much from them. Like, like hearing the story, like I love Ben's stories about Global or like, hitting the roads with Barry Horowitz.
Yeah.
Like things like that. Like Ben got to do a lot. And Chris, like those guys got to do so much. They really did.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. All right. Well, obviously in Crossfire and Saw and stuff like that, in 2011, you also got to work some for Mike Porter's NWA main event. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's where we met, but I could be wrong on that. I know you and I eventually met and worked together at Saw as well, but I do remember, if I'm not mistaken, I do remember us working a little together at Mike Porter's NWA main event. Do you remember talking about Mike a little bit there?
Yeah, I like when I first started working there. I know we did Veritas Street. There might have been another one before that where he was working with Bill Barron.
Yeah, it was. We were on Veritas though. So
okay, yeah. I remember those times, man. Like I got to work with some pretty good talent during that time. Like I think I worked with Steve-O during that time.
Steve-O's great. Yeah.
And then I did a mixed tag once with Ryan Howe and Jesse Bell and Mickey Knuckles. I think we did there once.
That's awesome.
I did some work with LT Falk. And then I think maybe Seven and I'm trying to remember the other guy he tagged with. Big guy.
Seven and
was it Mustafa something?
Yeah, Xavier Mustafa. Yeah.
Xavier Mustafa, yeah. I got to do some work with them too during that time. But yeah, man, like I really enjoyed my time there. That's kind of where I got to know Jeff Daniels a little bit.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And got to like get him to open his brain up to the business. And like during that time, I think him and Shane Morton were feuding.
Yeah.
For Porter.
Yeah.
Man, that stuff was great. Really good stuff.
Oh, dude, they're two talented guys, man. Seriously.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Especially the promo game and psychological game with Jeff.
Oh, man.
Man, yeah. He was awesome.
Seriously.
Absolutely awesome.
And you got Shane as the ultimate baby face. And I mean, seriously, you just got, such a great tag team.
It's a good combination.
It is, man. It is,
All right. Looks like in 2014, you worked in IWA Mid-South. Tell us a little bit about that run. How did that go?
Okay. So how that come about, I did like a one-off. That's such a crazy weekend. So like on a Friday, I did like a triple threat match with like Chris Michaels and Matt Hardy somewhere. Wow. I think it was at Centerville, Tennessee. And then the next night I go to work for Ian. And it was just kind of a, try it out deal, see how it goes. And, it went well. There's a lot of people that I worked with in the locker room at that time that batted for me. And, told Ian that I was good. And then I did that one match. And then from there, I began to feud with a local babyface there. His name was Mitch Page. Honestly, the perfect guy to put me with.
Mitch Page.
Mitch Page. We downright beat the ever-living shit out of each other. the entire angle. It drove me crazy because, like, the first time I met him, I do the run-in, and he tells me before he goes out there to do his match, he goes, I want you to swallow my eyes shut as a shoot. I'm like, no, you're kidding, right? He goes, no, man, I'm not kidding. And I'm going out there, and I'm punching him, and my hand's hurting. And it's almost like that Gypsy Joe thing you hear about, hit me harder, right?
Yeah, exactly. Harder.
I'm sitting here telling brother, I'm like, man, I ain't got nothing left. I'm like, you about to swell my knuckles up. I mean, I'm not holding back either,
Right.
But that was the perfect guy for Ian to put me with at that time, because Mitch was a mainstay in IWA Mid-South since the beginning, really.
Yeah.
And that they kind of helped me get on top as a heel at that time.
Yeah.
Working with a guy like Mitch. And the thing I liked was, like, Ian put us together, but he kind of let us call the shots on how we were going to do things. And we pretty much booked that entire angle between us two, kind of like a Memphis angle.
That's awesome.
And at the time, we were really the only angle going. There really wasn't an angle anywhere else, on the card. So, we were the story. And, I mean, we had people, thinking that, we legitimately didn't like each other. We weren't pals on Facebook. We weren't interacting on Twitter together. Yeah. And then, like, we kept everything between us as far as talking things out behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, we really had people believing, or at least questioning, do these guys really not like each other? Is this really a shoot? Etc.
And you were working again, guys in that locker room like Bull Payne, Madman Pondo. I mean, there's some great names in there. They were always around IWA Mid-South. I know that. I don't know if they were specifically there all the time, but I just know, guys, let me ask you this, and this is just a personal question that, especially about IWA Mid-South, because I don't have this opinion because I don't know. I never worked there, but Wolfie D and some other guys like Trailer Park Trash, Frank Miller, some of those guys, they kind of think that IWA Mid-South hurt Kentucky wrestling because of stuff with the commission. Do you feel that way, or how do you feel?
I mean, I feel to a degree that it did. I think sometimes and this is just my opinion, but like I kind of agree with Wolfie, because I'm sure, Wolfie felt that way, right?
Oh, totally. That's his opinion. Yeah.
I felt like the violence, the violence level was too much.
Yeah.
To the point that, it did hurt a lot of things in the Kentuckiana area.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Ian. I mean, I've never really even had a problem with him.
Right, of course. Of course.
I know a lot of people have, but as far as me, like there was one time I shorted on money, but the next show I had my back paid by the time I even unzipped my bag.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I know that's not the story with a lot of other guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that did kind of hurt wrestling in that area. I'm not gonna sit here and say it didn't.
Yeah. Understandable. Well, speaking of Wolfie D, in 2016, you actually got to work with him in 2 different promotions. You actually worked him as Cerebus for AWA. I think it was the company that Chase and Grumpy Bail Bonds Girl ran. And then you also got to work with him at the NWA New South for James Carver. Talk about working Wolfie D, man.
Man, Wolfie he's a trip, dude. He's a fun guy to be around in the locker room.
Right.
Now, I've heard a couple of stories from Jamie where you just don't straight up mess with that guy.
Right. Right.
In my opinion, I've always thought Wolfie D is that definition of unwithable.
He carries that vibe.
he probably had to be that way with Jamie around.
That ain't me kissing ass. That's just me being real. Okay.
Right.
But,
right.
No, in all seriousness, both of my experiences working with Wolfie was always good. True professional, always fun to be in the ring with. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, like he was always fun to be in the ring with.
Yeah.
Like even before that, before we got to work with each other, we've been in the locker rooms with each other. He was always a fun guy to be around, man.
Oh, totally. Yeah. He's definitely that. I remember early on, I was like, why are people not bugging him more? Because he was in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I would go sit over there and talk to him. And I'm like, dude, I love PG-13. Because at that point, I'd kind of gotten to the point to where I was really watching a ton of Memphis. And because we grew up Mid-Atlantic kids, we didn't get to see Memphis as much. We didn't have like the Joe Pedicino shows or something like that. So seeing getting to watch stuff on YouTube and watching, and trading tapes early on when in my late teens, I started getting tapes from other places and dubbing tapes and stuff like that. And actually getting to watch the PG-13 stuff, I became a really big fan. And then I see Wolfie D sitting over there and he looks totally different, but I know it's him. And I'm like, why are people not talking to him, man? I would be bugging So I did it. I just said, hey, man, I know I'm a manager, but like, what do you think, like on this stuff? And he always gave good advice. I never worked with him directly, except I managed a guy against him where it was a squash match, but, Wolfie went over quick, but it was okay. But, I never really got to work with him. Now I've worked with him for 2.5 years on this podcast. So I feel like I know him almost as good as anybody. But when it comes down to it, I know one thing is Wolfie cared about getting a good match. That's what he 100% cared about, so.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree, man. Like he always wanted to do the best for whatever the situation was.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but
I agree.
Working with Wolfie, man, he was a blast.
That's awesome. So in 2017, you actually start working some guys, and I believe this is in UPW. You worked Rob Conway, you worked Abyss, you worked Larry D. You were working some other kind of bigger names around that time. Talk a little bit about that time frame.
Man, like as far as like camera, like looking at okay, so you get taught things and then you kind of forget about things.
Yeah.
And then you get that light bulb moment later on, right? And
absolutely.
That's kind of what happened to me with Rob Conway, like working with him. Like, I actually worked an angle with him in 2 different places. I was working not only UPW, but even for Carver's NWA New South at the time.
Okay. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And
yeah.
I remember I'm cutting promos in the back at NWA New South, and he's like, hey, try this, or like, try this facial or whatever, like after a take. And like, so like, he actually like took the time to like stand back there and like watch my stuff and things like that. And which like, I really greatly appreciated because I mean, it's Rob Cotton. Like, you don't have to do that if you don't want to.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like I got to work an angle with him between 2 different promotions, which was awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
He was, and Rob was a pleasure to work with. I mean, like he even went as far as like plugging the show that the blow off match that we had. He plugged it on like WHAS 11 in Louisville.
Wow.
Like 2 days before.
Nice.
Like they had him on TV. He plugged it, and then we did the blow off a couple of days later. Abyss was truly a pleasure. A very, very easy guy to work with. you know, it even, honestly, I felt like it made it a little easier when he found out who I was trained by, because he was very close to them early on.
Yeah.
You know, when TNA was getting started. Really had a lot of fun working with him. Very easy, very professional, very kind.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Rob and Abyss were great. Great guys.
Very cool.
So talk about some of your favorite like tag partners. I know we've talked about a few of them, but talk about some of your favorite tag partners through your career.
You know, as honestly, it's probably more recent in my career, but like some of my favorite tag partners will probably be Jeremiah Plunkett or Eric Andrews. Like I really like tagging with those boys. That was a lot of fun. I felt like that we had a good chemistry.
Yeah.
We could, as far as like, as the match progressed, we could do things without really having to communicate with each other because we knew each other so well.
Yeah.
And I think with those things, that kind of really helped with the flow of the match.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, you and Plunky, I could see y'all on any TV channel right now as a
man, we had so much fun together, man. I love tagging with him.
Yeah.
We always had such a good time.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, before I hang it up and bow out, like, I hope we get one more run together.
Dude, man, if y'all need a heel manager, I'll be glad to help y'all out with that. So
we'll call you up from ONC, Bubba.
I love it. Just let me know. I'll be there.
Come on down, make the town.
Yeah. So in 2020, this is kind of interesting because, you know, we've never brought this up with another guy. And it's honestly because a lot of the guys had already retired by this point. But in 2020, because you're an active wrestler, you were just in Pennsylvania, I think, right? Recently, like you were literally last weekend. And so how was COVID for an active wrestler on the indies? How was that? What did that do?
Man, it was something else. Okay, so like there's this big 16-man tournament that happens in Alabama once a year. They call it the Haas tournament. A lot of people think it's like big boys going at it, but it's actually called the Heart of the Southern 16. That's what each letter stands for.
Okay.
It's for a company called New South Pro Wrestling, based out of Alabama. I won the tournament in early 2020. I won the whole thing. The final will come down to me and a guy named Chris Crump, based out of Chattanooga, AR Fox, and Kurt Stallion, who later went on to WWE at that time. I went over in the tournament, and then the world shut down like the next week. It's kind of weird how that works.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like New South come back up again in the summer. They kind of did some things to follow protocol as far as like limiting, you know, the amount of people that could buy a ticket, mask wearing, all that good jazz. It was very different. I would honestly say, like, during the pandemic, it helped me realize how much we need fans to feed off of our own energy.
Yeah, true. Because the TV shows were horrible during that time. I hate to say it.
Oh, God, yes. Like,
I loved it.
Okay, like look at the NWA, for example. Like, NWA was like, I was enjoying that show so much.
Me too, man.
Before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, they were on the rise, and then the pandemic just, it really hurt the product. And like, I'm not saying just NWA, but like, I think as a business as a whole, I mean, God, it hurt it bad.
It did, man. Yeah.
Like, you know, and since then, like, I did do limited crowds. You know, I worked with people that, you know, maybe that's probably not a cage match or people don't know about. I don't know. But like, you know, going into the summer of the pandemic, like I went 15 minutes with Brian Tillman Jr. and like,
I saw that.
Huntsville, Alabama.
I saw that, dude. How was that, man?
It was fun. It was a good time. Brian's a really good kid. I didn't really have, you know, I don't have anything bad to say about the guy. Like, I thought he did well, and we had fun, and, you know, but like, it was just such a hard time. It was so different. Like, even then, like, I did like close set tapings.
Yeah.
And like, you realize, like, we always know the fans of professional wrestling is important, right? But like, when you're in a close set taping and you're having to dig for that energy on your own, and you're feeling every bump and every strike.
Yeah.
and things like that. And then by the time you leave the taping, let's say you start at 8 o'clock, and by the time you leave at 2 a.m., and you feel like you've been ran over by like 2 Ford 350s, you really realize how important the fans are, you know?
Yeah.
Like, without them, like, we would obviously truly be nothing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was such, like, I would say from 2020, and I would even go on into from 2020 to the spring of 2021, it was very hard to do this shit.
Yeah.
Like, there'd be days, like, we would do those tapings, like, I would even do, like, have you guys heard of Paradigm Pro Wrestling?
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Okay, so, like, I did, that's another thing that I did was the UWFI, like, shoot style stuff.
Oh, wow, okay. Pancrase.
Yeah, kind of like that. A lot of people don't know, but I'm technically the first match on UWFI match on U.S. soil in 25 years.
Wow.
I did it with Eric Stevens, former ROH star, in November 2019. I was the very first match. We did tournament that year. But, like, doing, when we're doing that kind of stuff, we're taping, like, you're taping 4 or 6 weeks worth of TV.
Yeah.
It goes on IWTV. But, like, God, you feel like you've been hit by, 2 trucks by the time you walk out of there.
Probably because you had, actually.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But, like, it's hard. It's not, like, it was really hard during that time. Like, I really realized how much a wrestler fed off the crowd, the energy of the crowd during that time.
Yeah.
I always knew we did, but I didn't realize how, like, paramount it was until, like, you ain't got no crowd.
Yeah, because like that Terry Funk, Jerry Lawler, empty arena match, that's kind of like a novelty, right? It's like, okay, that was one time.
Something special that could probably never be replicated again.
Exactly. But then if you think about a whole show and then a whole year of shows just like that, and they ran out the guys, like talking about WWE, they ran out the kids from NXT, or talking about AEW, they ran out the backstage. I mean, they tried to do what they could with it, but the magic of the actual fan being there, because even the boys are only going to give you so much, you know what I'm saying? Because they're like,
it's only going to get you so far.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, I've always wondered that, because I haven't really been able to talk to anybody specifically that's been working, and especially through the COVID times, because, I can imagine, did any bookings just totally dry up at all?
I mean, it did. I mean, it obviously reduced, right? Like, I was probably, like, before COVID, I was honestly probably working like anywhere from 8 to 12 times a month.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it went down to like maybe 4 to 6. Like, I mean, it did drop.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty much in half, man. Ooh.
Yeah. It's brutal.
So, one of your more recent things that is working, in AEW, you work Big Bill. How was that? Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what you can tell us, like, producer wise, who produced it, and stuff like that.
Well, Kevin Kelly helped me get that.
Oh, cool.
I've been working Hamburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's a promoter up there, or he was. He's not there now, but he was at the beginning of the year, all the way to about September.
That's cool.
One thing that was good was Jerry Lynn was my producer, was my agent on the match.
Great guy.
Which you knew him, yeah. I
knew Jerry because, like, I'm sure if you look back at the timeline from, like, I'd say like 2009, 10, 11, like Jerry Lynn, Kid Cash, like they were at the Stadium Inn pretty regularly for Tony,
right.
or for Bill DeShields with the the ATL wrestling,
right.
So like that made me feel very comfortable knowing that I had somebody that I knew. Bill and Ricky, true pros, great guys to work with. I didn't, I felt like those boys treated me as their equal. They didn't treat me any less than or anything like that. And they knew that I was, I felt like they knew that I was, that like we had to work together to make this thing get over.
Yeah.
And I felt like we did it. I felt like I did a decent job for the most part. From the feedback that I got, I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, you did good, man. We were proud of it. I was happy to see that, man. I really was. I was marking out for you, dude. So
it was such a shocking moment, like I didn't like. I thought I was probably just gonna get like Ring of Honor or something like like taping like after, which
sure.
I would be happy with anything that I would get, but yeah, like they dropped that on me about an hour before. I'm like, oh my god, like this is wild, But my experience at AEW was really good. I mean, everybody was really kind, really professional, and I really enjoyed my overall experience there. So
did you meet Tony at all?
Tony, I did see him going through Gorilla. Like that man is like that man works his ass off. I could already tell.
Yeah.
He was right there in Gorilla, like before I was going to make my way down the ramp. Like he was right there.
Yeah.
And then I went out. I kind of snuck out to watch the last of the show because they had like a couple of tapings afterwards.
Okay, very cool.
And when the show was totally over, Tony was still there.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like when that I'm sure you probably hear like in tweets and interviews, the man works like 80 hours a week or whatever, 100 hours.
Yeah.
Like the man really does because he was right there when I left.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people think of him as just this gigantic money mark that really is just there to pay the bills and leave. But I mean, I think that right there shows you that. Now, when it comes down to it, do I love everything AEW does? Far from it. Do I love everything WWE does? Far from it. But what I mean by that is, Tony is quintessential. He's the other Vince McMahon, especially. So he's probably thinking that that's how you have to do it, and I assume that really is how you have to do it. So
like I would honestly like just off of that one experience alone, like you already know, like I noticed by like when I'm walking through to leave to grab my stuff and leave and Tony is still there, like that shows you like 110% like he's in the weeds with his team like all the way through.
Yeah.
And he's committed to making this thing work too. Not that it's not that it wasn't already working, but he's committed to the future of it too.
No, he truly like 110 million whatever percent. Like he cares about what he's doing. And you could tell that by if he's staying there to the very end. Like literally, like he's getting his stuff together as production is starting to tear down the stage.
Yeah,
like, he's there to the very last minute. So
cool.
If that doesn't show you that he cares, I don't know what does.
Right.
Amen.
Is there a possible return in the future?
I haven't heard anything yet. I do got some good things coming up in the future.
Very cool.
I can't really say yet, but one is not in the United States.
Oh, bro. So, oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
I can't really say what that is yet, but I mean, I'm sure if you pay attention long enough, you'll catch on.
Come back on after that happens, and we'll talk about it in a part 2. Okay, that works.
Okay.
Yeah, that's rad, bro. I know that's huge for you. If I'm smelling what the King's Road Slayer is cooking, I'm feeling you there. So that's very cool.
I mean, especially like this late in my career, it's wild. Can't believe this shit's happening.
Hey, that's awesome, man.
That is awesome. Well, this kind of wraps up the main interview. Now, we do a little thing at the end of every show called the name game, Derek. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's okay. We take it easy on you, but would you like to play the name game?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Having me worried for a second.
That was the best reply ever. Nobody's ever turned it down.
I know, that's kind of an awkward pause, boys.
Yeah, no, I like the pregnant pause.
Sure I hear you right.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. We'll be right back with Derek Neal in the name game. DJ, hit that music. All All right, we are back with the name game and our very special guest, the King's Road Slayer, Derek Neal. And the very first name on the list is Richard Lowe.
Mentor. Took me under my wing. Took me under his wing very early in my career and kind of, helped me get things going, helped me get my momentum going to where I am today.
Yeah, that's cool.
How about White Tiger?
White Tiger. Fun to be around the locker room. Really enjoyed tagging with him. Good personality. Great person.
Nice.
All right. The next one on the list, the legendary boy Tony Falk.
Tony Falk gave me my chance when a lot of guys never would as far as promoters. Gave me a lot of advice and tell me to keep hitting that gym, hitting that tanning bed, Bubba.
And I can't, LT, I tell LT, he's missed 110%. I tell LT he got to go to the gym. He got to put in that 110%.
LT, you got to get in the gym. You got to get the tan. You get the booking.
That crow just drives me up the wall. He got the TV. I love Crow, but Crow, he drives me up the wall. I love
Crow, Big Crow. We got on the booking sheet next week, Big Crow.
Tony's the best. Yeah.
Tony's awesome, man. Tony. He gave so much of us guys a chance.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. When he didn't even have to, and yeah, Wolfie and I got him on our podcast, and it took us like 6 months to get him on the show because he is a Captain Kayfabe, man. He does not.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and it was funny when I got him on the phone finally, I said, hey, Tony, you want to come on my podcast with Wolfie? He was like, let me tell you something, brother. I don't do a lot of these, but I was talking to LT. LT said, y'all are on fire. Y'all are doing it big. And yeah, I would love to come on the show. It's like, you had to get that LT, the LT to tell him it was okay, okay, they're doing all right.
But it's good, man. Put it over.
Yeah, you got it. I love that though. I thought it was awesome. Shit, so man. Yeah. All right, the next one on the list is Kevin Dunn.
Kevin Dunn, I never had a bad experience with Kevin Dunn. Every time we had it in the ring together was good, was fun. That's about it. He was always good to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about Tim Ernesto?
Tim Ernesto. Learned a lot from Tim Ernesto. He gave me my shot in Shelbyville. Got to work with him there. He always seemed to believe in me a little bit when others didn't.
That's cool. Well, the next one up is Styling Shane Eden.
Man, that man is like, you could pick that man 1 out of a million.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
But fun to be around, dude. Wild as shit. At least he was the last time I seen him.
Yeah. That's the best way to say it right there, honestly.
He's a character, bro. He is different, no doubt.
He is there when he's there. Let's just say that.
If he's in the locker room, you're going to know it. Yeah, there ain't no doubt about that.
Exactly. Yeah, he came up to Saw a few times. Yeah, you're right. That's the best way to say it. I'm going to leave it at that. All right, the next one on the list is the big picture, Mike Jablonski, a buddy of the show.
Mike Jablonski, he was actually my third match ever in wrestling, or second, I think.
Wow.
At the Gallatin VFW Hall. Mike, I love you, but you almost squashed my head on a damn Sunset clip. VFW.
Oh, man.
When you was a much larger man.
Yeah.
Than you probably are now.
Yeah.
But no, Mike was always cool with me though, man. And he was always cool with me. I felt like we were always on the same page.
Yeah.
For the most part in the ring.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything bad to say about Mike at all, man. We always had fun in there.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
How about Mitch Ryder?
Mitch Ryder, baby. I'm very thankful because working with him at USWO for Nashville for Tony. That's how I got to the Midwest. Working with Mitch, he got me booked in his promotion. By telling Todd that hey, take a look at this kid. Todd, between Mitch and Chris that helped me get in there, and then I got to tag with Mitch a lot at IWA Mid-South in my 2016 run there. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen a guy that could cut a promo like Mitch can. Like, literally, you could say to Mitch Ryder, hey, you got this guy, here's the date. They turn the red light on, and he just goes.
It's magic.
As far as, like, psychologically, promos, and just being believable in the ring, like, Mitch was the man, and yeah, I miss him, man. I wish he was still here with us today.
No, yeah, that's awesome.
I miss him a lot.
That's yeah. Too many are gone, man. Too many are gone.
It is. Too many of the good ones are gone.
You know, the other night I was talking to Ben Jordan, and you know, I was on my drive home. I visited Nashville to see my son, and we were talking on the phone, and Ben always has a little scratch. You know how he is, man. He always has a little something of wisdom to drop on you. And he said, you know, I was thinking the other day, you know, that you either are the one to go or the one that's still alive. And he doesn't know which is worse sometimes, because sometimes you're either going to be the one that outlives them all, and then you got to bear that weight of all that grief, or you go, you know. And he was just kind of saying he doesn't. And that was so, I mean, that, you know, like those, you talking about the light bulbs going off. That was like a light bulb for me. I was like, holy crap, he's right, man. You know, you either... Yeah, it does, man. So the next one on the list is another one that's gone, and we didn't really talk about your time working for him, but, you know, NWA Top Rope and Mike Searcy.
Mike Searcy, he was always good to me, man. Like, I never had an issue with him. Because of him, like, I got to travel to other NWA affiliates.
Yeah.
I got when I was much smaller and leaner, I got a NWA World's Junior Heavyweight Title Championship match thanks to him.
Was that against Kevin? What's his name? Kevin.
Kevin Douglas.
Kevin Douglas. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was at Lebanon. Oh man, that was a story that I was going to tell y'all if y'all got time.
Of course.
So this is like December of 2011. We're going to do a 2-day shot. So we're going to do like NWA Houston, and then we do NWA Amarillo the next day. So we do Houston, and we get boozed up. It's me, Hammerjack, or Kenny Jack. I'm like Kenny Jack.
Kenny Jack. I love it.
I'm going to say down there, Kenny Jack, baby, I love you. Tasha Simone, Eric Andrews, and me. And we go to the bar to mingle, you know, shoot the shit with the boys right after the show.
Yeah.
And we just drinking and drinking and drink. We close the bar. We go to Denny's. We're leaving Denny's. Tasha Simone puking in the damn front lawn of Denny's. I thought it was funny.
Oh my God.
I may or may not have drunk dialed Tracy Smothers and Bull Payne. They were very gracious with me. Well, Amarillo gets canceled. Okay.
Yeah.
We find this out very early in the morning.
Yeah.
So Cersei decides in Houston, we're going to wake you all up at 5, and we're going to drive back to Lebanon, Tennessee.
Oh my God.
So we drive all the way back to Lebanon with no plans of working at all.
Yeah.
And then all of the matches went short that night. We get there at intermission, last intermission before Maine. Eric and I get dressed, and we go do an hour.
Yeah.
In the ring. We do an hour.
Wow.
And then the next morning, I got to drive to like some Christmas thing in Louisville for the family, having my wife elbow me all the way up to Louisville to make sure I don't kill us in the car. It was fun.
That's the life, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the life. Oh, man.
Cersei was always fair to me, though, man. I can't say a bad thing about the man at all. He's always kind to me, always fair.
Yeah.
How about Terry England?
Terry England, I love Terry, but that son of a bitch is a cheapskate. So, I'm gonna tell you for shoot, man won't deny it. One time we was at a restaurant and he collected all the tips off of other tables to pay for his meal.
Oh my gosh. That's like Rip Rogers stories right there. Other than you know, that's like a Rip Rogers story right there. Although I think Rip would just take the food off the plates is what he would do. But yeah, wow.
But Terry gave me a chance in this state when nobody would. You know, like Terry was always giving young guys a shot.
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, that's a funny story, I know, but like in all seriousness, like he's still somebody I have a lot of respect and admiration for, and grateful for the fact that he gave me a chance when a lot of people weren't.
Yeah, that's cool. The next guy on the list is Anthony Wayne.
Anthony Wayne. I mean, I've never had a really bad interaction with him.
Yeah.
You know, everything's been pretty cool for us for the most part. I don't really. I'm sure you guys keep up with the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't agree with the whole kick pad thing, but whatever.
Understand.
I mean, I don't wear kick pads, but damn, you know.
Right.
Some people throw kicks, man. I don't know.
That's if you don't have kicks and you wear kick pads, that's the only part I don't like, is when they have kick pads on.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Like, if you're throwing kicks and you wear them, fine.
Yeah, let it go.
Where everybody says, well, you're protecting your opponent, but wouldn't you really be protecting yourself too?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
How about Ben Jordan and the Wild Boys?
The men, dude.
Yeah.
Ben and Steve are awesome guys.
Wild men. Yeah.
I really got to connect with those boys a lot in early stall. You know, with TJ at the old sawmill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, just listening to stories from them guys and, like, you know, taking advice, and, you know, and, like, I didn't learn just stuff about wrestling, but I learned things about life from them too.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve. You know, and when, you know, like I said earlier in the interview, that, you know, when I have to bring my kids with me, you know, when my wife was working, like, you know, they'd help me out with that stuff, man. Like, we wouldn't talk just about wrestling, but we talk about, like, our families and our life and, like, how things are going.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I felt like with Ben and Steve, like, I really gained not only like mentors that I could look up to and ask for advice out of those guys, but I felt like that I made personal friends, you know, with those boys.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
true. They have hearts of gold, man. They really do. Both of them. And I love them dearly.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, the next one, we talked a little bit about him earlier, but Josephus.
Josephus, man. Oh, man. It's crazy. Like, that, you know, me, like, it was wild. Like, it was wild seeing him when I first met him, right, as a guy just holding a camera, and we're talking old wrestling, to see how he ended up, like, on the NWA and doing all that stuff, man. Like, it was truly amazing how he leveled himself up, and, you know, and he was just I thought he was a humble person, in my opinion. He was fun to talk to, and probably out of wrestling, one of the most intelligent people I've ever known.
Absolutely. Well book read. I mean, dude.
Such a smart guy.
Yeah, literally.
Such an intelligent human being. And that, like, as far as like wrestler deaths, like, it's always sad when we see one of our brothers and sisters go.
Right.
But when it's somebody that you have some kind of attachment to, like, it hits you even harder.
Yeah.
And with Joe, between Joe and Tracy, like, as far as in recent memory, those are the worst.
Yeah.
It's a gut punch. It really is. And, you know, but I love Josephus. He's such a great guy to be around.
Yeah, no doubt.
How about Tracy Smothers? That's
another one. You know, it's probably one of the worst. Like, I feel like it's one of the worst things I ever said. It was a couple of days before Tracy died, because I bought his book. You know, we talked through Messenger, son. You know, just checking in.
Yeah.
And I bought his book, and I got it autographed, and I bought it like 4 months before, and it was like the day before he passed. I was going through some things because I was just trying to organize some stuff in my house, and I come across his book, and I was like, man, I hope I read that thing before he's gone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I got the message the next day that he was gone.
Oh,
and sorry, y'all, man.
That's cool.
Oh,
dude.
man, no.
But that hit me so hard. I mean, that was that. You know, it was just like so cataclysmic and in line, because you have Tracy, and then I want to say Mitch may have not been too long before or after that, and then Joe.
Yeah.
It's just like, but Tracy really hit me hard, just because, like, he heavily influenced my trainers' careers and lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know, when I first met Tracy, I was just an 18-year-old kid, you know, so I felt like, so basically I've known Tracy over nearly half of my life at this point when he passed. And that one has by far hit me the hardest.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah. I remember he said one time, and I'm going to ask so we can pep it up a little here so you have end on a happy note with him. I remember he looked out, we were at Saul one time when he looked out in the crowd and he said, well, if they riot, we can take them.
Yeah. He said that one time when he was at IWA Mid-South.
Yeah.
Early 2016.
And they did riot there. I'm just kidding.
He looked out. He peeked out the curtain before the show, like 10 minutes before. He goes, "Boys, if there's a riot out there, we got them outnumbered."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that was the best thing I ever heard in my life, dude. Never popped so hard ever.
I know.
Oh man.
That or the brother don't care. Brother don't care. We got a bump tonight.
Right, exactly. Oh, man. So the very last one on the name game, and by the way, this has been a great name game. The very last one, we couldn't have a name game with Derek Neal if we didn't say Chris Michaels.
I feel like he's my true savior of pro wrestling. He's my dad. I call him dad still to this day.
Yeah.
Somebody I can confide in about how I feel about stuff. Not just wrestling, but personal life. My best friend.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I probably would have been a 40-miler working once a month in one town for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and that's funny because Tracy was that for Chris. You know what I'm saying? So it's all tied together.
Chris was the sole person. I think one of the sole people, other than myself. One of the sole people responsible for how my career turned out. I wouldn't be nothing without that, man.
That's awesome.
I really wouldn't.
Well, good news, man. You totally passed the name game. Good job, Derek. So,
hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Well, we've always end every show with one final question from our Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. Take it away, Jared.
All right, Derek. So I'm sure it's going to be a tough question, but if you could look back on, all the matches in your career so far, and you had like a favorite match, one or two, give me your favorite match of all time.
Okay. One was with Chris Michaels, Franklin, Kentucky, 2010.
Okay.
Absolutely love that match. The second one would be with a guy, he's in Alabama. Look him up if you don't know him. His name's Cabana Man Dan.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Heard that name or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a match with him WrestleMania week in Tampa, Florida, 2021. I defended the New South Heavyweight Championship. That's the promotion based out of Alabama.
Yeah.
Those two are my favorite. Those two that I can think of right off the top of my head.
That's awesome.
Hey man, that's what
even that match with Dan was one of Gabe Sapolsky's favorites of that Mania week.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, Derek, thank you so much for being with us on this show, man. And thank you so much for telling your story. And thank you so much for just, giving your time and just thank you so much for what you've given to the business too, man. We just greatly appreciate you for everything.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
I had fun today.
Good.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Yeah, for sure, Bubba. It was a good time.
Yeah, and when that thing happens in the future, you come back and talk to us again, okay? Because we want to hear all about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thank you, Derek.
All right, thank you, boys.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. See you.
Bye.
All right. See you, man.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up with the Plastic Sheik on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much, Derek. You're the best.
Yeah, man. That's fun, boys.
Hey everyone, this is Shane from Insane Shane's World. I release wrestling figures of enhancement talent, mid-card wrestlers, and wrestlers that you never thought would have a figure available. So if you're interested in adding a really cool and rare figure to your collection, then don't hesitate to contact me at shamtheman73@gmail.com. That's SHAMtheman73@gmail.com. You can also join my Facebook group. Just search Insane Shane's World.
If you're a fan of rock and music, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to check out my podcast. It's called the Decibel Geek Podcast. We've been doing it for about 10 years now. We talk about Kiss. We talk about Ozzy. We talk about Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica. We talk about all the legends from the 60s and on, up to brand new bands that you should be hearing about today that you're not going to hear on the radio. It's Decibel Geek. Wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find us there. If you love rock and roll, I can almost guarantee you're going to love my show.
Oh, man, Sheik, what did I say? Kings Road Slayer, Derek Neal. He's awesome, right?
Man, what a guy. He's got such good stories, and he just, he's great to talk to. And there's so much more we could cover with him. And again, as always, we talk about people. We'd love to have a part 2 with him. So
we will.
Looking down the road, man.
Yeah, he's got big stuff coming up, and it's just so funny. He's just a true road warrior, man. He really is. He stays gone, and he is just putting himself out there, working his butt off. And he is a guy that you could honestly put up on a wall and say, like, all right, kids, you're starting the business. This could be your path. Try and follow this and see where it takes you, you know. I'm very happy that he got the AEW job. I love to see that, and I hope he gets more, man. I see big things for Derek. I really do. So...
yeah, man. When you got somebody can work and work safely with people, they're gonna be in demand for, companies. So I'm hoping and looking out for more for him.
Absolutely. Well, to kind of wrap things up, obviously, if you haven't heard the Scott Spade episode, it was incredible. Go back and listen to that. Also, if you don't mind, go check out the very first episode of Stories from Across the Street with myself and Still Real to Me, damn it, Dave Wills. Also, we thank y'all so much. Definitely go check out the Turning Up the Heat podcast. Now, here's the deal. This is my buddy, the Heat Miser, Scotty Blaze. I actually put together a commercial for him, helped him out early on with this podcast. And he actually sadly lost his son to a very tragic incident, and he stopped doing his podcast. And who could blame him? And he's been away from it for a while, and he's got it on his heart to start it again and get it going up again. So go check out the Turning Up the Heat podcast with the Heat Miser, Scotty Blaze. I think his next episode is going to be on November 6th, and this will be a very emotional one. Bring the Kleenexes to this one. I think you'll enjoy his stuff. He plays music. He talks about news. He's a wrestler. He actually wrestled with my mentor, Kenny Steele, quite a bit. But when it comes down to it, he's actually a great podcaster, too. So go check him out. Turning Up the Heat on November 6th. He's coming back. And I promise you that's going to be a good episode. But as always, thank you for checking out our shows. Of course, the Live and in Color with Wolfie D. Thank y'all for listening to those. One other thing, if you want to see and know what's coming up next for us, go to our social media pages at GMBMPW on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, YouTube. That's where you can find all the upcoming news. You also get to watch some Sheik shorts, right, man?
Absolutely, man.
That's worth the price of admission alone right there. So, yeah. But once again, we just thank you all so much. Thank Derek Neal. Thank all the people that listen. Thank you, Jared, for being my co-host. Just really appreciate the fun we're having with this. So
yeah, man, and thank you for all you do. Producing this and editing and all the stuff you do, man, putting them together.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. It's definitely a job that I love to do, and it means the world that y'all listen to us. And honestly, the next few shows, y'all are really going to want to tune in because we've got some great guests coming up. I don't want to drop any names, but let's just say these are some guys that have been there and have done that. So once again, for the Kings Road Slayer, Derek Neal, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street, I'm Jimmy Street, and this has been Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Don't forget,
fight forever.
With a tear in my eye.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.